Hi, guys. Welcome to our virtual seminar tonight regarding goal setting. It's important to kind of dive into talking about how to set goals and how to approach goals, depending on exactly what your specific goals are, especially if you're doing the back at it challenge at this point. The halfway point can sometimes be a time where we see members or people doing them get stuck and kind of start to fall out of the things that they started to establish early on. So we want to make sure that we're staying on track so we don't lose any of the progress that we've made so far through the first month, and to continue to build on that through the remaining 4 weeks. But this can really be related to this discussion is going to be mostly with the scope of health and fitness. But this stuff you'll see can be applied to really any type of industry or career, or whatever the field may be. So the biggest thing, like when it comes to goal setting, there's two different things that we're going to talk about tonight. So the first one is how to choose what's most important right now and how to set a plan of attack to approach that first goal. And then from that one, we're going to talk about behavior goals versus outcome goals. And this is super important because outcome goals can be, once we kind of break it down, we'll see that that's going to be like the long-term thing. But getting there one step at a time, how do we start? Where do we start from? Those are different things that we're going to call behavior goals, and establish new behaviors to hit certain benchmarks to reach our outcome goal, which is the ultimate goal at the end. So first and foremost, when it comes to goal setting, I think it's important to identify what's the most important thing for you right now. So for example, if we're talking fitness, you may have several goals. One might be build muscle, one might be get stronger, one might be lose weight or improve body composition. So all those are good. And at the end of the day, a lot of things like that may end up working hand in hand, but we need to have a specific approach to which goal we're going towards, so we can map out a plan to get there and set ourselves up for success with different behavior goals that will eventually lead to that outcome goal. And that's a big part of what we're going to talk about soon. But without like a clear central focus, oftentimes, whether it's in fitness or really anything, if we have a lot of different goals that we do want to achieve over time, without saying this is the most important one that I'm going to choose right now, it's hard to figure out the path to get there. And oftentimes that can lead to us putting a little bit of our energy in a lot of different areas, and maybe either not hitting the goals that we're looking for as well as we want, or simply just falling short of those goals. So I think it's very important, first and foremost, to identify, if you have multiple goals, which one is the most important right now. And once we identify that, then it's a matter of, okay, now we know what's going to be most important, and we're going to put one foot forward and start working towards that. And then once that goal is achieved, then we see where we're at with the other ones. Sometimes, like I said, they may go hand in hand, and you may get some overlap, and you might end up getting pretty close to achieving a secondary one while working towards your primary goal. But I think for the most part, you'll see that after we hit one goal, now we can set a new roadmap to get to what's most important next. So just keep in mind, like, especially if you're doing a challenge that's 8 weeks, like our back at it challenge, that Rome wasn't built in a day. So we're not going to achieve, if we have 3-4 goals we want to hit on the year, we're not going to hit them all in 8 weeks, probably won't hit them all in 12, maybe 16 weeks. But choosing what's most important right now is going to be something that's going to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this goal, and now I'm going to set a plan of attack to get there. And then once that's it, boom, then we can move on to the next one. So in order to do that, we need to establish what is our outcome goal. That's the end game. That's where we want to be. Whether it's in 3 months, in 4 months, in 5 months, our ultimate goal will be the outcome goal. So for example, it could be, I want to increase my base pace from 5.5 to 6 miles per hour over the course of the next 12 weeks. That's the ultimate goal, the end game, the outcome goal, we'll call it. Could also be, I want to add a pound of lean muscle over the next 8 weeks. It could be, I want to lose 10 pounds over the next 8 weeks. So whatever that ultimate goal is, that's what we'll call the outcome goal. So now it's important to say, okay, I've established what's most important. I've established what my outcome goal is going to be. Now, how do I get from point A to point B? How do I put one foot in front of the other? So these are what we call behavior goals that we need to start establishing to work towards our outcome goal. So let's just use a general example and say our outcome goal is to lose 10 pounds inside of the next 90 days. Okay, it's a clear goal. We know exactly where we want to be. Now, how do we get there? So we need to establish behavior goals. A behavior goal, an example of the first behavior goal might be maybe you join the Back At It Challenge for the next 8 weeks. Maybe you joined Orangetheory Fitness, or got into or upgraded your membership at Orangetheory Fitness to increase your frequency. Something there is going to be your first step in what do I want to do to take the first step to get there. So let's say it was I signed up for the Back At It Challenge. It's 8 weeks. Okay, so now what? So now we know our first behavioral goal is, okay, we signed up for this challenge. We've taken the first step. Now, how do we take the next step? What's the next behavioral goal we want to set? So we know, for example, for like the Back At It Challenge, we need to make sure we're making a minimum of 3 classes a week for 6 of those 8 weeks. So what is a behavior goal to make sure that we're doing at least that? A behavior goal would be to, okay, I'm going to pre-book my classes throughout the whole month of July and get into a relatively consistent routine. Maybe my routine for classes is Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays at 4:30 p.m. And I'm going to make sure that I'm booked out through the month of July to make sure I'm getting into a consistent schedule and finding my groove to make sure I'm hitting the classes that I want. So that could be the next behavior goal, is setting yourself up for success with a consistent schedule and something that you're going to hold yourself accountable to, and your coaches and peers are going to hold you accountable to as well. Now, what's the next goal in the next behavior goal in actually getting to attending those classes? Identifying maybe what a previous hang up in your fitness journey, we'll stick in this scope for the sake of this discussion. What was a previous obstacle in your journey that hasn't allowed you to get to the outcome goal that you're seeking right now? Maybe it's just staying on top of your schedule. So for example, if you're someone who maybe weren't making your classes because you weren't preparing for the week of 3 classes or 4 classes, whatever it is. So now maybe recognizing that and understanding, okay, I'm going to set a behavior goal for myself to make sure that I'm set up to make sure I'm making those classes. So the night before I go to work in the morning, I'm going to make sure that my gym bag is packed. I have my sneakers, all my clothes, whatever else we take, our water bottle, towel, heart rate monitor, everything is set in a bag. So I'm going to make sure that that bag is pre-packed and ready to go the night before. That way there in the morning, I'm not leaving anything to chance. If for whatever reason something's going on in the morning, maybe maybe I oversleep, maybe something's going on with my kids that's going to take up some time in the morning that I had planned to use to pack the bag in the morning. Maybe I realized, oh shoot, I have an appointment that I forgot, or I have to pack my lunch or prep lunches or pack my kids' lunch. Anything that might get thrown your way in the morning. Whereas if you're planning on maybe packing that gym bag the morning of before you go to work to say, okay, I know I got my 4:30 class. I'm just going to give myself 10 minutes in the morning to pack my bag. I'll leave for the day and I'll be good to go. I can go right from work to the studio. But leaving that to chance, anything can come up. And then any hang up where we lose time in the morning, that could be time where we lose time to pack our bag and get all that stuff ready. So then we're out the door without doing that. And it's okay, maybe I can leave work early, shoot home, get my stuff, and then head back to the studio. And then all of a sudden things come up at work. We're not able to leave early. And then boom, there's one missed workout. So simply as just preparing the night before when you know you definitely have time, maybe your kids are asleep and you got a little bit of free time before you go to bed, give yourself 10 minutes to pack the bag. If that's, one of the hang-ups, that's been something that's been a hang-up for you. So just small behaviors like that will lead to making sure we're staying on track towards the behavior goals we're setting, ultimately leading to the outcome goal. I think setting small benchmarks for yourself is a huge part of success when it comes to reaching that outcome goal. And a lot of that is going to just be layered into the behavior goals that we set. So as we're starting to implement different behaviors and different habits and things, those will all start to become just routine for us as we're going through them. But it's important to establish those things and stay consistent with them, especially early on as we're trying to establish new habits, because really it's going to take us anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for anything to actually become a habit, if not longer. So just staying on top of that stuff and making sure that we're being consistent with it is extremely important. But again, more importantly, to set some benchmarks for yourself. So if the outcome goal is, again, lose 10 pounds inside of 90 days, what does progress look like for you? And I think it's important to try to define that at least in some sense. Like, what do I want to do each week or bi-weekly? If I'm going to do maybe a weigh-in bi-weekly and see where I'm at, my goal will be to lose between 1 and 2 pounds every 2 weeks, so that by the time that timeline rolls around, I'm pretty much right on track inside of those 90 days to hit my number, if not exceed it. So without those benchmarks, if we're saying like, okay, I want to lose a pound in 2 weeks, and then we weigh in, we see we've hit that or exceeded it. Okay, boom. Now let's set a new benchmark for the next 2 weeks. Now I know that the first 2 weeks I was able to lose 2 pounds. So maybe that should be the benchmark now. Next 2 weeks, I want to lose another 2 pounds. Set something that's realistic for you so that you keep yourself achieving these little benchmarks, because ultimately that will lead to the outcome goal, which is the end game, which is where we want to go. But sometimes setting a goal, whether it's something super small or simple or something that's lofty, can seem very out of reach if we're thinking just beyond everything and saying, how do I get from point A to point B? Like, I know I want to lose this 10 pounds, but from right now, it seems like that's a long ways away. Well, setting up these small benchmarks with your behavior goals is going to help you stay on track, because it's going to keep you motivated, seeing your progress a little at a time. And then before you know it, boom, over the course of those weeks, because we're doing all these things consistently, then it's okay, now this is all added up and here I am. I'm right at my goal, right where I want it to be. And I got there by doing this. And now once we get to that point, to circle back to the start of this discussion, now it's like, I've achieved this goal. Now we can branch off. Now what's next? What's most important next? So I've lost the 10 pounds I want to lose. Now I want to really start focusing on increasing my muscle mass. So that's going to be the next goal. And I'm going to set a goal for 12 weeks to add a pound of muscle. So I'm going to take an in-body scan today. That's my first behavioral goal. And then I'll schedule another one for 12 weeks. And now I know, okay, I've been doing my 3 classes or more per week. I've been consistent with that. Now maybe my new behavioral goals, I'm going to schedule in 1 to 2 lift 45 classes a week on top of maybe 2 orange 60s a week. That's going to keep me in the groove I hit with hitting my orange 60s and my other classes during my first 90 days to get to the point where I want it to be now. But now I need to change something up to shift where I want my new goal to be. And this is going to be the first behavior goal in that step. And then just layering on top of that and finding different ways to find different ways to motivate yourself and stay on track. Maybe it becomes, okay, now I'm consistently hitting my 2 orange 60s, my 2 lift 45s every week. So now what's another behavioral goal? Now I'm going to make sure that I'm at least increasing my weights on a particular exercise once bi-weekly, once bi-weekly or something like that. Like, that can be a small behavioral goal that ultimately will lead to more strength, more muscle. And then by the time that 12 weeks comes around, maybe we're looking at the increase in muscle mass that we wanted. But moral of the story is, whatever the specifics of this are, it's very important to set yourself up for success with those smaller goals that will lead up to reaching your outcome goal, and also setting benchmarks for yourself to track your progress and know, hey, this is working. I'm in the direction that I want to go. Or, okay, maybe I'm not necessarily getting there as fast as I want. What adjustments can I make? But without knowing all those things and without setting those small behavior goals and those small benchmarks, we may just be hoping for the best. And then by the time we get to the end of where we want to be, the outcome goal, the end of that timeline, we may fall short because we haven't been either tracking or setting ourselves up with all those different behaviors and layers and benchmarks, to where now it's added up to this big goal that we've achieved. And really, for long-term success, that's the most important thing, right? Like, when we talk about setting goals and outcome goals, okay, if my outcome goal is I want to lose 10 pounds, well, what's next? If I don't have like a ton of other different things that I want to accomplish on the fitness end, how do I make sure that I don't regress and go backwards? So it's about establishing the behaviors. Ultimately, when it comes down to anything that we're doing, if we're not consistent with our behaviors and the habits that we're forming, then there's no long-term success. There might be some short-term success. You might hit that outcome goal depending on what it is in the short term. But then after that, if we haven't established habits and behaviors leading up until that point, it could be very easy for all of us to fall back to where we were beforehand, and then regress to the point where now it's, okay, I'm back to square one. I got to redo this all. But if we're establishing behaviors and habits and doing them consistently, then it just becomes part of our life. And now it's a matter of building or staying where we're at, and being consistent with everything else that we establish, which is great too. So when it comes to any type of thing, like when we talk about this back at it challenge, it's only 8 weeks. We know there's a limited amount of things we can accomplish in 8 weeks, but the reason why we like to do these things, and we're, as participants, I'm speaking, is because, okay, this is exactly what I need to start giving myself some structure and to start getting myself on a path of goal setting and getting to where I want to be. And it's ultimately about developing habits. Like I said, 8 weeks is a short time. We can accomplish a lot in 8 weeks, but it's what we do with the goal, with the behaviors and habits we've established during that 8 weeks, that are really going to lead us to our success long term. And a lot of that is making sure that we're hitting those benchmarks and those behavioral goals. So consistency is key above all else. If we're not consistent with anything, then results are just going to come and go, and we'll be going up and down, whether that's in fitness or your career, life, anything. You could pretty much relate that to. So consistency is the most important thing. And I think with that, those types of behaviors and things that we're talking about here are going to be what's going to allow us to stay consistent and stay on track. So keep that in mind as you guys are goal setting. And it's not always easy to set goals. It may be easy to set the outcome goal, which is like, okay, I determine this is where I want to go, but it's not always easy to determine what's the first step, what's the first behavior goal I want to establish. So use your network, use your peers of other members. We have a great group, whether it's via social media, in the community, in the studios where you're attending, and use your coaches and staff. Like, we love talking about goal setting and your why behind the goal setting. So reach out to us, talk to us, and we can certainly help establish some behavior goals to get the ball rolling. And then once you start putting one foot in front of the other, it's going to be very easy for you to figure out where you need to go on your next step to get to that ultimate outcome goal. So use your network. There's a lot of people in your corner to support your goals, whether it's the fellow members, coaches, or our team. So make sure you're talking to us and communicating that stuff, because that's what we live for. That's what we love, is helping you identify and reach your goals. So definitely reach out to us. And then, most importantly, like I said, consistency. I really can't stress that enough. Consistency with anything is what leads to results and what leads to long-term results. So as we establish these things, it's important to stay consistent. And a lot of that is going to come with a lot of discipline. And a lot of times consistency is easier said than done. It's not always the most convenient to work out at certain times or to stay on track with this stuff. But those are the times where if we can fight through and always keep the greater picture in mind, what is my outcome goal and how do I want to get there, then ultimately those are the times that we'll be able to push ourselves to get to the gym when it's not super convenient, get to the studio and get our workouts in when it's not the most convenient. And then ultimately that's what leads to the lifestyle and the long-term changes that we are trying to establish. So we're pretty much at the halfway point, not only of the Back at It Challenge, but really of the year. We're just into July now, so we're 6 months in. So a lot of us probably set some goals at the start of the new year. Here's where I want to be in 2021 by the time the year ends. So right now is a great assessment point. Where are we at with our goals? We're halfway there until the end of the year. Are we on track to get to where we want? And if so, great. And if not, there's still time. Like, it's never too late to put one foot in front of the other and make sure we're getting on track and being consistent. But again, it starts with starting with that first behavior goal and putting one foot in front of the other. So use us, use the coaches in your network, use the teammates and the members in your network, and let us know how we can help. And we'll get this posted in the Facebook group too. So if you guys got questions and you weren't able to make it on live to the call, make sure you comment below in the comments. Any questions or feedback that you might have related to goal setting or anything that we're doing here, we'll be more than happy to chat with you. Does anybody that's on now have any questions on anything goal setting or really anything in general before we hop off? Cool. I think we're good. So if anything comes up, guys, like I said, this is going to be posted in the Facebook group. Comment below, and we could certainly start a discussion there. But thanks for hopping on. Reach out to your coaches and staff for any ways that we can help. And looking forward to the next 4 weeks of our challenge, and then much further beyond, and continuing to set your goals and crush them. So thanks, guys. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.